Welcome to J.A.M Media, or J.A.M for short, where I have passionate conversations about the things and with the people that excite me. Recently, I got to sit down with Sydney producer and DJ Sippy. During our conversation, we spoke about how Sippy discovered her passion for bass music, as well as staying fit both mentally and physically in an industry whose culture is built on late nights, partying and drinking. Let's stop messing about though and get to my interview with Sippy. Going back to the start, was music always something you wanted to be involved in?
I've been playing music since I was probably 7 years old, so I've always loved music. I played piano from about 7, played drums and guitar from 12 or 13, and I used to always, I would be in bands and I would write music. I would write, just singer-songwriter stuff on my guitar, and I always, even I remember when I first started playing piano, I used to always try and come up with these little melodies and things like that. So I always loved music, and when I got into the end of high school, I was writing a lot more music for either bands, or I was even doing some orchestral arrangements and things like that. So I was always involved and I always loved it, but I never thought that I could create a career out of it, and especially not, I thought the only way you could make a career is if you were the world's best drummer or the best, pianist or something like that. But obviously, as I I went to uni, did something completely unrelated, did exercise sports science, and then I found I didn't know much about electronic music, so I didn't really know there was this whole DJ producer sort of thing. So I sort of obviously started to discover that as I was getting older and going out and all that sort of stuff. And I kind of eventually wanted to start producing because it was, I thought it'd be awesome to be able to write music on the go just by myself, just for fun. And then as I sort of started jumping in and learning to DJ, it just started to snowball, and it started going really well for me. And then I saw the career opportunities and the different jobs that I could actually do to be involved. And once I started in the electronic side of things, I kind of knew that I wanted to do it, or at least if I could, for the rest of my life. But I don't think when I was younger I really knew. I always wanted to be around music. I always wanted to write music and play music and everything, but I didn't think that. I always thought that it would just be a hobby for my whole life. But now it's obviously turned into a complete career. So yeah.
You sort of, after discovering electronic music, you found the heavy bass and dubstep side?
Yeah, I pretty much went all out. So I remember when I entered your shot, the DJ competition, and I didn't know, the only reason why I entered was so I could eventually learn to produce music. I tried to produce, but I had no idea what I was doing. So I sort of thought, if I get into DJing, I can at least sort of learn how electronic music works and then kind of go from there. So when I went into the competition, I had no idea what kind of electronic music I liked. I just, I liked everything, and I was more into bands and stuff, so I wasn't really sure. So I just literally went on SoundCloud and went through all the genres. And I remember once I had a friend who loved dubstep, and I just hated it. I was just this is not my thing at all. And then when I actually went through and started looking at all the genres, pretty obviously I went into dubstep, and I just found the music so I don't know what the word is. It's almost it shocked me. I loved that shock value of not knowing what was coming, and then hearing the drop and just seeing how much it can make people react, or it would, how much it would make me react, is what I really loved about it. And so I think the genres I picked up from there was dubstep, drum and bass, and also at the time glitch hop. It was just the funky but also really dirty kind of thing. But yeah, it was such a weird thing for me to jump into, but I just purely loved it because it was almost the shock value of it. And I would hear a song and hear the drop and just go what on earth is that? What is going on? So I think that's why I kind of was drawn to it in the first place, and obviously I haven't looked back since. So
was it tough transitioning from that sort of band mentality to electronic music?
I mean, it was and it wasn't. The thing that was and still is kind of easier for me is the whole songwriting thing is the easy part for me, but the thing that I struggled with when changing over, or more when I was like DJing more than anything else, was, you know, when you're a band, you play the whole song out, whereas DJs, and especially now it's becoming, you sort of notice it a little bit more, but you don't play the songs a whole out. You kind of have to keep this vibe that's very much like, you know, pushing next song into next song into next song. And definitely in my first few sets, I didn't know that, because I would play and I would just play the song until almost the very end and then mix in the last little bit of it. And that was probably the thing that, and it was something I had to kind of learn the hard way, is in see the crowd and the crowd be like, okay, we're over this, like, let's keep moving. But other than that, I think the transition wasn't too difficult in terms of like, even the writing, like, well, actually the writing was kind of different, because the thing that I found really hard with music production is you have so many, when you're writing for a band, like, you have the instruments, you've got a guitar, you've got drums, you know, so the instruments don't change, it's just how you use them or what you play. Whereas the thing in production that blew my mind was, not only can you change the notes that everything plays, but you can change the instrument an infinite amount of times. And to be honest, at the start, that's what I struggled with. I struggled with being able to choose what instrument it was, and like knowing that I could just tweak it a little bit more kind of gave me so many possibilities that I was almost like overwhelmed. So that was probably the thing when it came to actually writing the different music that was hard, was not having boundaries, and also not understanding how to, I knew how to write music the whole time, but like I didn't know the technical side of the programs, the synthesizers, I didn't understand, like, even when you listen to music, like things that, you know, you always kind of put into dubstep tracks or put into house tracks or whatever, and I didn't really understand that. So that was probably the hardest thing, like kind of coming to understand, you know, what's typical in that genre, but also understanding how I could possibly write or create an instrument that like almost didn't exist yet. So yeah.
Yeah, those limitless possibilities must make it hard. Like,
it's so overwhelming. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, it's almost better to. Sometimes you have to, well, not care, but sometimes you just have to go, yeah, that'll do, because you can get stuck in it, and it just takes hours and hours to convince yourself that what you've done is enough. But yeah.
And are people shocked when they see you playing those big, heavy tracks?
So I think that was something I loved about it too. I loved the fact that I wasn't the person that the crowd were expecting to see play that music. And I don't know, sometimes even at the start I would get, not a negative response, but like people would see me go to get up and they go, oh, I'm not really interested in what this girl's going to play. But there was also like the other end of it, where then I would start playing and they were so shocked and amazed that they would stay and be like, oh my gosh, I want to see what she can do. So and I've had plenty of times where I'll be DJing and like someone in the crowd actually high fives the lighting guy, thinking that that's the guy that's playing and stuff like that. But I like that I'm not the norm. And sure, sometimes it is a bit weird, because yeah, like that, I can tell that people are not expecting me to play it, but I kind of love that. I love seeing the look on people's faces, just trying to put two and two together, and they're like, what, how? So, yeah.
And so to develop your skills, you went and studied at Icon Collective in the States.
Yeah.
What influenced that decision?
Well, I mean, I was sort of playing around with music production at that point, trying to learn, and I wanted something structured to learn. I like structured learning for the basics. Obviously, once you get everything down, you know, the best way to learn is just to keep writing. But the way that I stumbled upon Icon was, like, I knew I wanted something structured already, so that was part of what influenced the decision to go there. But the way I stumbled upon it was, so originally I was starting my DJ school, the academy, and I was talking to a friend about starting it, and I was like, oh, you know, I'm just trying to piece everything together, seeing how it works. And they said, oh, I have a friend who works at this production school over in the States. Maybe he can give you some pointers. Like, he runs the school, so like he can tell you what works for them, what doesn't work, and if you need any advice, he'll help you, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I Skyped this guy, and he was like, yeah, you know, I work at this place called Icon, and this is what we do. And then I obviously looked into the whole school and was like, wow, this school, I've never heard of this school before, and it looked amazing. Obviously, I then went off and built up my DJ school, and then when it came time and I'd finished building it all up, I went, well, that seems like the perfect place for me to go and learn. It seemed like, I'd done my research, but it just seemed like the most practical course for me to do. I wasn't looking for a diploma, or, you know, I already had a, you know, bachelor from uni, but I was just looking for the information, and that place, after doing all the research, I realized that was going to give me the most practical information, and it was going to give me all the tools that I needed to practically go out and use it in the way that I wanted to use it. So that kind of was what made my decision, and what actually pushed the button, I guess, is I went over to the States. Never been there before, but I went over to, I guess, like, check out the scene, see what it's all about. One of the DJs over there, Bear Grylls, literally just said, come out, I'm playing a few shows, come and, you know, watch me play and see what it's all about. And when I got over there, one, I was overwhelmed because it was massive, but I also was like, I can do, like, I saw what was possible, and I thought, well, I can do this, like, why can't I do this? So as soon as I came home, I actually applied for a scholarship there, because it was their intake that they were applying for a scholarship, obviously to see if I could get the course for free, and I didn't get it, but I knew in the lead up, while I was waiting to hear the results, I just knew if I don't get the scholarship, I'm going anyway. And so obviously I didn't get the full scholarship. I did get a partial scholarship, which they used to give out if you're eligible for the scholarship but you didn't get it, they would give you a partial scholarship. So I literally, as soon as I found out I didn't get it, I was like, I'm in, like, let's do it. So yeah, it was, and it definitely was the best decision I've ever made, for sure.
Is there anything like that system here in Australia?
There definitely isn't. Australia has a lot of, like, they have a lot of different courses, and they have some very structured and very unstructured courses. But unfortunately, I don't think that any of the courses in Australia really, I don't think, in my opinion, there aren't any in Australia that really live up to Icon. And to be honest, I don't really think there are any in the world either. There's amazing, like, schools for music, like, say, Berkeley is obviously amazing, and so is the Conservatorium of Music, but, like, if you're wanting to be an electronic music artist, or a modern day electronic music artist, there's no other course that literally puts that in a little package and trains you to be the most prepared working modern music producer, or modern electronic music producer. That course just really prepares you beyond anything, not only with the information, but also the way that they structure it is in a way that gets you ready for becoming a working music producer. So yeah, it's definitely, anytime anyone asks me about it, I can't describe how useful that course was. It changed everything for me, and since then I have opportunities that I never would have gotten if I hadn't have gone to that school. So yeah.
More recently, MTV wrote an article about Tiger Lily.
Yeah.
Touted her as the world's fittest DJ.
Yeah.
I believe you had an issue with that.
Well, I mean, I was just poking fun. She does a great job. She obviously, like, I see her constantly posting. She's constantly exercising and all that sort of stuff. But obviously, my background, well, not obviously, a lot of people don't know, but my background is I did exercise sports science at uni. I'm a certified personal trainer. Through school, I was in the elite level of, and essentially, like, classified as an elite athlete, and was doing all sorts of different sports. And obviously I've gone on a completely different tangent, but I definitely still stay really fit. Someone did make a comment, Anthony made a comment saying, was it Anthony? Someone saying that Will Sparks is probably the world's fittest DJ, and I would probably give him that. But yeah, I definitely like to keep fit, that's for sure. But to be honest, the fitness that I find with all of this is more for my mind rather than the physical side. Purely because I started producing and I would be in a room by myself all day, every day. I literally needed an excuse. I started to obviously go a little bit socially inept and like needed to do something, and going out and exercising was like a form of, it was quite therapeutic, and it was I guess a form of meditation, and I literally just did it for mental. But I've always stayed pretty fit, and it's something I think people don't, I mean, they can tell I'm obviously like in shape, but they don't really know that I'm into sport specifically. But seeing that article, I was like, oh, I could probably be up there in terms of fitness levels. But in saying that, I don't know, I like seeing that culture start to come through of DJs actually looking after themselves, which is nice.
It's not a culture that sort of pushes that, is it?
No, it's definitely not a culture that I would associate with electronic music producers and DJs. Their culture is very much alcohol, party, like not looking after yourself. So it's definitely good to see, I guess.
I guess it helps being fit too, playing in some of those sort of hot, sweaty clubs as well.
Well, this is the thing, like, I mean, playing it depends who you are and how you play, but like, it's actually physically quite taxing. Like, I have a bit of a problem because I like to headbang, and so literally if I have a big show, and I have to be careful, if I have a couple of drinks, I sort of get too into it, and then my neck is done. But I literally get whiplash for about 2-3 days, and I can't move my neck side to side, and it's the most painful thing. But it's physical, and you just sweat and just like jump around the whole time. And I don't think I realized that it's exhausting until I don't realize straight after I've finished. It's not until I go to bed, or even the next morning. Even if I haven't been drinking or anything like that, I've literally gotten to the club, played and gone home. Still the next day it feels like you've had a huge night and you've been out for hours just because you're jumping around and kind of getting into it. So yeah.
And talking about the mental aspect, is that tough when you're in a room producing for a long period of time?
100%. Before I started music, I felt like I had the most, I didn't have any issues with mental health or anything like that, and never really thought about mental struggles or anything like that. And then music, on the one hand, it's therapeutic to write music, obviously, when you love it, but the lifestyle can be really tough mentally, and that's one of the biggest things that I've noticed is like another challenge of it. And obviously one of the aspects is that, I guess, sense of isolation, where it's sort of unstructured isolation, where you have to set the structure for yourself, which is a little bit different. Like, say for example, if you were working a 9-to-5 job, you would sit at your desk looking at your computer from 9 to 5 and not really have a problem with it because it's work. But when you yourself stick yourself in a room by yourself and stare at a computer from 9 to 5, you're doing the same thing, but it feels different because you've isolated yourself to go and do that, and you've kind of made the decision to go and do that rather than technically being forced to do it by, a boss or whatever. But it's definitely a different approach. And I think, mentally isolating yourself like that, you need to find the balance. You need to go out, and whether you need to go out and socialize with people, or whether you literally just need to get out in the world and go to the shops and like just do normal people things so that you feel connected to everything around you. Because you can lock yourself in that room and just completely lose all sense of time. And then I think the other thing that's really hard mentally too is there's no structure with it, and if you want to do well, it's a constant grind and it's a constant push. But it means that I feel like people who do want to continually better themselves, they constantly want to be better, but sometimes that can really weigh you down mentally because you don't stop and appreciate what you've done so far. Even someone said to me yesterday, I was showing them some music, and I was like, I was being a bit so-so about it. I was like, well, it's not, it's all right, it's not very good. And this person was like, what do you mean? This song's awesome. And then they said to me, you have to remember how far you've come in such a short time. Not obviously, you know how far you want to go and how far you've got to go, but you've got to realize you've come from somewhere too. And I think a lot of people struggle with it too, because they're constantly, you know, it looks like a really awesome lifestyle because you can go off and do whatever you want whenever you want, but it also means that whenever you have downtime, you're thinking, I should be working, I should get on the computer, I should go do this. So I think they're kind of the two aspects of I guess the mental health side of it. And like obviously the isolation also comes from doing a career that seems completely different and not like real world. But I know lots of people have their own coping mechanisms. Like I get a lot of people all around the world who I'm friends with who are touring DJs, and they will, like, some of them, like, their thing is FaceTiming. So they'll literally call you on FaceTime, so it feels like they're hanging out with someone, even though they're completely other country, probably just sitting in a hotel by themselves. So I get that. But obviously when I'm at home here, it's good because I can sort of go out and like see people and feel socially normal, I guess.
Yeah, not having like set hours too
is tough.
Tough to detach from it.
Yeah, it is, because it can go one of two ways. You can go one way where you don't then set enough time for yourself to do that work, but then it can go the opposite where you're constantly working and you don't actually give yourself the time off. And I know I have definitely slipped into both of those. I've definitely slipped into working too much and then completely burning myself out and then writing myself off for 2 days because I'm just exhausted from constantly, you know, working. And I used to think sitting in a studio for hours on end, like, it's not tiring because you're just sitting there, it's not a big deal. But it was only probably 2 weeks ago I did a day, and I started at 6 a.m. and I got home at about midnight, and the whole day I probably took about 2 hours break to either travel to somewhere or to get something to eat. And the whole next day I just was exhausted, like I just couldn't do anything. And it had never crossed my mind before that just literally sitting and writing music for that long can actually be quite draining.
Mentally draining, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
And what does 2018 hold for Sippy?
Last year was about learning to produce. This year was, you know, about, I guess, exercising that, or I guess putting into practice the things that I'd learnt and really getting practical knowledge and getting better at writing music and starting to release music. 2018 is going to be really big.
I hope everyone enjoyed listening to my conversation with Sippy. If you enjoyed this interview, please share the video, subscribe to the channel, and head on over to jamyapsmedia.com so that I can continue to bring you more interviews and reviews in the future. Thanks.